All episodes of the Real Women in Business podcast reflect the opinions and views of the guest and cast McCrory and do not reflect official policy or position of employers or clients. Thank you.
You're listening to the Real Women in Business podcast. I'm your host, Cass McCrory, and in this podcast, we highlight women in all kinds of businesses. For yourself, someone else, full-time, part-time, overtime hustle, together we will learn from and with one another. And if we get it right, it'll lift us all. Let's get into it.
Hello, friends. Today we are talking to Lisa Woodruff. She is the founder and CEO of Organize 365. This is a conversation that you are going to want to have your notebook and your Sunday basket handy for. You are going to identify what everybody wants. This is no joke. We talk about the root of what everybody wants. And then we talk about how you can get more of it by doing something pretty revolutionary and simple. There was this one drop of knowledge that Lisa gave us that I want to just bring out at the very beginning here because it was so good. Keeping a good house is not the same thing as being a good mom. You guys, grab your notebook. Let's get to the show. So Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Cass.
Now, you and I met through Furnish to Robbie. She had an event called Book to Brand.
Yep.
And we were both present at that event. And I hear that you have a new book coming out.
I did. I got a book deal 18 months after that event. Yes.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Sure. So I help busy women in 1 year get their home and paper organized with functional systems that work. I've been doing that for 7.5 years. I started as an in-home professional organizer and then moved on to podcasts and a course creator. And now August 4th of 2020, the Paper Solution book will be launched.
Awesome. That's not the whole life though, because I know because we're friends on Facebook.
Yes.
Tell me about outside of the work, what's going on?
So I am moving into the empty nest phase. I'm not there yet, trying to kick them out, but they're still young. I have an 18-year-old and 19-year-old. I'm telling you, I thought turning 40 was awesome because I was able to, I just didn't care as much what anybody else thought once I turned 40. And that was a game changer. I was really able to focus on my family and do what they needed me to do. But now at the age of 47, with one in college and one in the senior year of high school, ladies, I cannot wait until my 50s. Like I am super excited. We moved our daughter to the basement. So she basically has an apartment, even though she's in high school. And I just feel like I'm finally able to tackle some of these big goals I've had in my 20s and 30s and even my early 40s. And I'm really living my best life. I own my company and homeschooling our daughter her senior year. And we're preparing to travel more. And I understand what my message is now in my business. And I just feel very productive and purposeful.
I have goosebumps. And I have tears in my eyes too, Lise, because here's the thing. I think that the season that I'm in right now with little people.
Yeah.
You can feel pulled into a million directions. And the relief that I feel in knowing that somebody that I really respect and like has this feeling of possibility here, that feels like a really wonderful thing for me.
Yeah. And I think we should dive into that because I was a very productive person when I had little people too. But raising kids is no joke. I mean, there is work-life balance, but there isn't because at the end of the day, it's the family is always going to win. They have to win. Nobody else can be mom. Done. So when you choose to have children or you're blessed with children, you really are making a 20-year commitment that they are going to take 100% priority, especially as the woman. Because even if you're co-parenting, it's just, I don't know, we just think differently. Like I can hear my kids in other rooms. My husband can't hear them when they're right next to us. Like I can listen to all the conversations going on in the room. I'm constantly thinking about what my kids need even now. And honestly, I was very mad in my 30s. I was an angry person in my 30s. I had wanted my children forever. There are blessings through adoption. We were not able to get pregnant, but I was ticked off because I couldn't get anything else done. I couldn't make any traction. I couldn't get forward momentum. Like I could get one goal at a time done, but not a big thing like launching a whole company. They take a lot of time, but we're going to live to be 100. Like we have plenty of years. So just enjoy the season that you're in, and then you will get your productivity back and your brain.
I feel a great amount of relief. And I think I'm sure many other people do too. And I want to dig into a little bit about, kind of where you're at right now and what this work looks like, because people are drowning in paper.
Yeah. So the bottom line is nobody has enough time. Like what everybody wants is time. And so one of the things I try to help people do is reframe how you look at time and what time is. So often when we're thinking about time, we're thinking about the number of hours in a day, a work day versus a weekend. And my framework for time really until like about a year and a half ago was I had to get done everything important that I want to get done before I was 65 because I was going to retire. Newsflash, I'm not retiring. And also I'm going to live to be at least 100. So what did I think I was going to do for 35 years? I don't like to golf. Like I'm already doing jigsaw puzzles. Like what was I going to do for 35 years? So now that I realize I'm not retiring and 65 is just a number, I gave myself permission to spend the parenting years parenting, knowing that I would have my 50s, 60s, 70s to grow my businesses. Do you know how many people start their corporations and their big businesses in their 40s and 50s? A lot of them. So reframing how we look at time is number one. And then the other thing is a lot of times we also look at just like your everyday. You get up, you get ready, you have work, you do dishes, you get ready for bed, and then there's self-care at night. Why? Why do we organize our day that way? And what does self-care look like? Like, why can't you at lunchtime listen to a podcast and read a book and just eat a pre-packed lunch as self-care, and then in the evening use that hour to do an organization project? You see what I'm saying? Like, why can't we start fitting our self-care in somewhere else? And do not even get me started on this morning routine thing. I do not get up early to do all those other things that are in. No, we need sleep. Like we definitely need sleep, but we're used to like when you're done working at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, do you realize between 5 and if you go to bed at 10, that's 5 hours. It does not take 5 hours to make, clean up dinner and get ready for bed. So what are you using for that entire 5 hours? I know it's lower energy time, but it's not no energy time. So looking at all of the time that we have. And then one of the game changers is I'll be telling you about the Sunday basket. Learning to batch my household administrative tasks on Sunday literally gave me 5 extra hours during the week. So we can find time. Time comes from organization.
Time comes from organization.
Mm-hmm.
Were you always organized, Lisa?
I was a born organized person. My mom could take me to the department store and try on clothes, and I would sit on the floor and play and sort buttons. But what happened was I became completely disorganized when my 2 babies arrived 18 months apart in adoption and I was working full time. I became unorganized, created this Sunday basket system, and got organized again. And then in my late 30s, just all the wheels came off. It was 5 years of hell that I don't want to relive through. I mean, my parents got divorced. My father passed away. Like the amount of debt we had from financial stuff was crazy. I tried to go back to work. That didn't work. My kids were sick. Our house was a mess. Every single drawer was a junk drawer. I didn't even know what was in the closets anymore. And that's when I realized you can be organized. Organization is a learnable skill. If you didn't learn it as a child, you might learn it when you have young children. You might learn it as you become an empty nester, but somebody has to teach you the skill of organization. And no matter how organized you are, you're going to get unorganized as you go through life transitions. And there are 4 that everyone will go through. When you leave childhood and start your own house, that's one. If you have children, that's another one. When you move or your children change life stages, that's another one. And then when you move to a smaller house, that's another one. And each of those requires different home organization than the last one.
I love how you just frame this all up for us, because it brings great clarity on, okay, so the way I've approached things organizationally needs to shift because of this transition. And what I did before might not work for now.
Yes, especially, and I think find this more frustrating for people who are organized than people who aren't, because people who aren't are like, well, I never was, and I'm not now, so I'm just going to keep going. But people who were really organized in childhood or in their 20s and end up with babies get very frustrated because they don't know how to organize babies, or they get really good at organized babies. Then everybody's in school and they're constantly in the car going to all the different school events, and they can't figure out how to get organized because all their organization is home-based, and their organization needs to become portable in the car and on the go. And so they're trying to use old organizing systems in the new situation, and they're getting frustrated because they're organized, but they aren't getting the benefit of the time they should be getting from living that organized life.
Yes. Yes. So many bells are going off for me right now. And that I have always been very organized. Like, I remember getting my first planner. Yes. I would play office as a little kid, like little, like 5 maybe. My grandparents would get a cardboard box in the mail, and I would cut it into a desk, and then I would staple papers to it. Yeah. Like, I have always been that person. But in the season that I'm in right now, so I'd love for you to give me a little advice, because, I am my target listener here in so many ways. I have little kids. I have 2 choices in my day when I spend the day with them. Either I pick up the entire day, mm-hmm. or I live in a mess, mm-hmm. and I pick up at the end of the day. Is there another way that I'm not seeing, Lisa?
Tell me the sex and ages of the kids exactly.
I have an 11-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy, a 2-year-old boy, a 1-year-old girl.
Okay. And what is your work schedule like? Do you work from home, away from home? Which days?
I work from an office Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week. Some weeks, like this week, it's Labor Day here, right? Labor Day was yesterday. As we're recording this, that's a couple of months ago. But so I will work Tuesday to Friday this week. And then I have usually 3 days at home. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will be home, and I'll work a little bit on Friday just to keep up with client needs. But most of the time I get to do household errands, things like that on Friday when the traffic is less, and then I can enjoy more of the weekend.
And are the 1, 2, and 4-year-old in daycare, or do you have a nanny?
We have a nanny.
Amen. Okay, great. You're in a great place. So number 1, you definitely need childcare. Even if you are working from home and own your own business, don't hire an admin, hire childcare.
Yes.
And give yourself time to do work. You do not have the luxury to do work or home. You have to do work at work, and you have to do home at home. Don't try to do work at home, and don't try to do home at work unless it's scheduling doctor's appointments, because you will just make yourself crazy. If your child is not in full day school, number 1, take a nap. I say that every single time. You must take naps, because otherwise you're tired and you're cranky. Number 2, you must separate home and work. You can't blend them together until your kid is in full-time school, because then they're also old enough that they know, like a teacher will say, okay, we're all going to sit on the corner or sit on the rug and read a story now. When they're under the age of 5, they do that for 5 seconds, and then you sit down with your book and they're gone and you're chasing them. So don't have that expectation on yourself. You will drive yourself mad. Hire a nanny instead of daycare if at all possible. And then give that nanny things to do at home while the kids are sleeping, even if it means you have to pay her more, and have her stay an hour later if possible, even after you've come home. So all of the kids' laundry should be done. Everything in the house should be picked up by the time you get home from school. Dinner should already be started. Lunches for the next day, if they need to, can be prepped. Like even on Thursday, they could be prepping the lunch for Friday. So the lunches are ready to go so that you don't have to do that. Grocery shopping can be done by the nanny. Like if they're allowed to drive the kids, then drive the kids. Or if the 4-year-old goes to 2-day preschool, then the 1 and 2-year-old go to the grocery store before she picks the preschooler up and come back. Like, how many of your weekend activities can you add to the nanny's day? And do you have somebody cleaning your house?
No.
Oh, yes. We need somebody cleaning the house. Absolutely. 110%. So somebody has to clean the house. I would recommend weekly. Is your 4-year-old in preschool?
He starts on Monday.
Okay. So whatever day they have preschool, that is the day that the housekeeper comes, and the nanny drives the child to preschool and has the 1 and 2-year-old with her. She goes to the grocery store. While she's doing that, somebody is cleaning the house. She picks the 4-year-old back up, and then they all come home again. I don't care if the nap schedule that day gets screwed up. The 1-year-old will fall asleep in the car seat. The 2-year-old may take a later nap. It doesn't matter. They're going to figure that out. But now your grocery shopping is done. Your house is clean. It's picked up and dinner is on the table. Then you just keep stacking more and more things. Because she can fold laundry with the kids running around. They're turning on the TV anyway. Like, you're not saying nobody can ever watch TV, right? Like, you've given her grace.
No, yeah. I mean, there's some, and I think you bring up a really great point in that I have been trying to do all of those tasks. And then that dilutes the time that I actually get to spend with the kids. Meanwhile, I'm giving the nanny this really great experience with my kids all of the time.
Yes, right, wrong. Right. Her job is to keep them alive and fed. Your job is to have fun Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And trust me, anybody who's a nanny, I was a nanny, they love playing house. They're happy to do the laundry and like dream up what the kids are going to have for dinner. And furthermore, do you care what they have for dinner? Like, if they have spaghetti or, like kid related food, you pick up brio on the way home and you and your husband have brio with your 11-year-old an hour after you get home and play with the kids.
Yeah.
You don't all have to eat every meal together. The kids would rather play with you on the floor for 30 minutes than sit at the table with you. They're 4, 2, and 1.
Right.
And is there a day that the nanny could stay later and you come get your daughter and you have, is it your daughter that's 11?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have like dinner on Wednesday, you and your husband and your daughter go out to eat. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, we have Skyline here. So that would be like $20 to go out. She doesn't have expensive taste anyway, I'm sure. She gets some one-on-one time with you because she probably doesn't get that anymore. You and your husband, and you guys can relax and eat a hot meal, and you come home an hour and a half later, and then it's all on with those babies all weekend.
Yeah. These are some really great tactical tips. I really appreciate them.
All said, that entire adding that dinner and adding that housekeeper is going to add maybe $120, $150 a week to your budget, which isn't no money, but it is going to make you so much happier and so much more productive.
Yeah. I can see that as being true. I can.
Mm-hmm.
I can. Do you feel like, what do you think the resistance is for women in particular and asking for the help that they need?
Oh, because, well, first of all, I just said it's $150 a week. Like, even you are going, oh, that's $600 a month. That's not, I mean, you've calculated it out already. Like, that's a really nice car payment, or a couple of cars. I mean, it's a lot of money. And I don't know, do I really want to spend $150 this week? I can do it. So I guess I should do it. But in your business, you would never do that. Like, you and I, the way we run our businesses, we have employees. Like, I'm on a mission to change women's lives around the world and help them free up extra time and live a productive life. I'm going to hire people to help me in my business to do that. Why not hire people at home to help me? It is so much less expensive to hire someone at home to help you and free up time and mental mindset in your business to impact the bottom line than it is to hire another employee in your business.
That's true.
Trained and managed. And number one, free up yourself as much as possible. And do you know who doesn't get on your to-do list? Your husband. No, you end up on yours. Yeah. How much time? Okay. When was the last time you went on a date?
Oh, we have a date night every week. So George and I,
you're doing better than most.
And I think that is, in all transparency, that is lessons of the second marriage.
Uh-huh.
This is our second time with
Right.
this marriage thing. And there is a knowledge of what it takes to keep love and really on the table. Yeah. And I really love my husband, and I also really like him as a person. So getting to spend time with him that is something that we don't compromise on.
So that's great. So You're doing that, but then you're run down every other second that you're not either on that date or at work.
It feels like I'm very pulled. Yeah.
Yeah. So keeping a good house is not being a good mom. Those are two totally different things.
I'm
help you
writing that one
keep your
down.
house
Keeping a
efficient.
good house.
Yes. Is
It's
not the
not.
same as being a good mom.
Hmm.
Do you know, according to the Pew Research Institute, it takes 28 hours a week to maintain a home, not including parenting. Laundry, dishes, grocery shopping, yard maintenance, household maintenance, 28 hours a week. That's an outside independent counsel, not me saying it.
Right.
So it makes you think you could do that and work full time and date your husband and take care of your kids and sleep.
Right.
The math doesn't add up there.
No, it doesn't. And I'm very lucky in that George is a great partner. And so I don't feel like that 28 hours is squarely on my shoulders. It's definitely not. And it still is a lot.
Right. So let's put some of it on the nanny. Let's hire a housekeeper and let's reduce it on both you and George.
Yeah. I love it. How did you come to a place of knowing how to give such advice? Like, do you feel like you give yourself great advice too? Or do you feel like it's a haircut? Like a hairdresser is great at giving other people haircuts, but less so on yourself.
So I am a super uber productive person. Like I have a black belt PhD in productivity. Productivity is just getting more done in less amount of time, but you're still doing it all yourself. And so I spent my entire 20s and early 30s getting more and more and more productive and doing and doing and doing more until I literally broke. You can only do it so long. And I tell my depression story in my book, and I just, I thought that if you were depressed, it meant you couldn't get out of bed. And I was always out of bed, so I couldn't possibly have been depressed, but I was just still functioning with depression, but I was hopeless. Like 50% of our take home pay was going to medical bills for 7 years. Like that's it's 85% of bankruptcy happens because of medical debt. So we were right there with that. My kids weren't getting better. My parents got divorced. My father passed away. We had to settle that estate. I didn't know how to settle an estate. My house was falling apart. I didn't know how to do anymore. So December 2011, this is a couple of years before I met you, I had gone back to teaching. I was teaching for 18 months, but everything was falling apart. I was driving home. It was the day before Christmas break. So it was the Thursday before the holiday parties. I had just been called into a meeting by my administrator about some parent it was the most ridiculous meeting of all. And one of my kids needed to go to the hospital, and the administrator made me stay for the meeting. So my husband left. He was already taking unpaid time off work and handled the issue with our kids. And I'm driving home and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, I am not getting it all done. I'm never getting to the bottom of my to-do list. And I started mentally listing all the things I was: a teacher, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, taking care of Greg. And I was getting an F in every single thing I was doing, except ironically from teaching. And when I went through the list, I thought, okay, no one else can be the mom of my kids. That has to be number one. And the only thing on my list that somebody else could do was teaching, but that's where my income came from. And I pulled in the driveway and I said to Greg, I said, I'm quitting my job. He goes, all right, what are you going to do instead? My husband's so like, whatever. I think he had just checked out at that point. And I went in the next day and I resigned, and I gave up the only thing that was actually helping us, which was somewhat of an income. So I cut our income, but I started January 2012, which is when I started Organize 365. And I just decided that I had to regain control of the house. I had to regain control of the kids. We still had great credit. And we still had credit left on our credit cards. We had a home equity line. We hadn't maxed out yet. And I thought, well, in order to get out of this, I'm going to have to take back control of my house and my kids and be proactive. And it took me 3 years to really get the house organized and everything going. And that's what I've turned into the 100-day program I have today to help. How do you turn the ship around and go from reactive and depressed and just going through life never feeling like you accomplish anything to being pro? So you're proactive, positive, profitable, productive. That's what going pro is. And it takes that putting the line in the sand and saying, no more. I don't care how long it takes. I'm taking it back. And ironically, physically organizing your house helps you get out those emotions and physically start to take back that control.
Yes. I love this. We haven't talked about this much on the podcast up to this point, but I have a passion project called Subtraction Project, it's similar
Mm-hmm.
to that. I started Subtraction Project because things were not adding up. And I kept on going to Target thinking, oh, well, certainly seasonal throw pillows and a new welcome mat is going to turn this entire shit show around. And spoiler alert, it didn't.
No.
And I was like, you know what? It's got to be less than. If adding more to this equation isn't making it add up, then I've got to start subtracting. And it started as just like literally 32 people said, yeah, I'll subtract some stuff with you. And we started subtracting things like the socks with a hole in it. Like, why am I keeping socks with a hole in it? And why am I doing X, Y, and Z? Like, I don't need to be doing that. And it takes time.
It does. And one other thing I wanted to mention, if your children are not in all-day school, remember I said to take a nap. So if they're under the age of 6, it is like shoveling snow in a snowstorm to stay organized. You have got to give yourself grace. You asked me earlier if I give myself what I counsel. Finally, yes, I finally do. But it was a hard lesson for me to realize I do not have a Pinterest perfect house. If you want perfect organizing or a recommendation on a container, you do not want to follow me. I only have functional organizing. I help you functionally organize your house. If your kids are not in school yet, they do not have little organized brains. They are not going to put stuff away. Like, you'll literally know everything they've done today because there's a little trail following them through the entire house. So put your oxygen mask on yourself, which means organize your kitchen, organize your laundry room, organize your home office, organize your bedroom, your closet. Those things will stay organized. You can maintain that. Kids' bedrooms, family rooms, playrooms are going to be a mess every single day. You're going to have to live through this stage. You're going to hate it. I hated it. It's fine. Everybody does it. And everything about that child changes every 3 months. You have it times 3. They like different foods. They have a different size diaper. They have different size clothes. They have different size toys. I mean, every single thing about that child changes every 3 months until they're about 3. And then it's every 6 months until they hit school age. And then you could start to be like, okay, we're going to do it in December and we're going to do it in July. And you could tell with your daughter who's 11 that you could go through her room in the summer and in the winter and you're fine. But with the little ones, it's constant. It's never ending, purging and adding, and don't stock up on anything because they're going to outgrow all of it.
Yes. I think that that's a great advice on a lot of things around stocking up, because I think that that's something that I've learned again recently, is that I have the access to get whatever I need pretty quickly. Yep. And so I don't actually need to stockpile and have, 6 deep of something. That's an interesting thing that I feel like from my childhood, I took that on and said, okay, I want to always be ready. Because I don't know, maybe I didn't feel ready as a kid.
Well, I think it's exactly what you just said. We have access. Like, you literally can order from Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow. Like, I don't even put things on a errand list anymore because it takes me too long to drive the 2 miles to the grocery store. It's an hour round trip and I buy 8 things that I didn't need. But when my kids were little, just, 18 and 19 years ago, I would load them up. We went to the grocery store. I stockpiled everything I could because it was so hard to get them to the store, buy everything I need. Now, if you have kids under 5, you should be ordering everything on an app at whatever store you want. Drive over, they put it in your trunk and you drive back home again, or better yet, have somebody else pick it up for you and bring it home and put it away. We don't have to spend as much time shopping as we used to. And so we default to how we were raised, not how we're actually living today. And we don't need to stockpile as much as we used to because we have more stores. We have different stores that can deliver to us, and almost everything can be delivered to your door. So it's not like when I started, I had to drive 30 minutes away to get to this certain store to buy whatever. That is no longer a thing.
Yes. Yes. What are you working on right now? I know the book's coming out. Mm-hmm. What's got you really excited these days?
What has me really excited these days? My team. I love growing a team. Like when I was in direct sales, I always grew teams and I loved helping people grow their own businesses. And now our Organized 365 team is all working on the same mission, vision, and values of helping busy women get their home and paper organized in 1 year with functional systems that work. And we are so excited about doing whatever those women need in whatever season we are. So I have studied my craft so much that I could tell you exactly the energy you're feeling in your house, what you want to organize any day of the week, any time during the year, because it changes. And so often you're like, okay, I want to get organized. So this is probably coming out in October. And you're like, I want to get organized. I could tell you right now, in October, you're going to want to organize your holidays that are coming up, and you're going to want to go through your closet. In November, you're going to want to go through your kitchen because you're getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas and any baking if you're going to do it. Even if you're not going to do it, you'll still get the kitchen ready because you remember doing baking back when you liked to bake or when you had time to bake. It's just, we have these things that we do inside of our house. And so knowing what the energy is that women are feeling is what I capitalize on in my podcast to help getting women thinking differently about things they've done year after year after year in order to have more organization and productivity.
If somebody is saying, okay, so you said closet for October.
Yep.
Where would you suggest somebody start in organizing their closet?
Okay, so when I was a professional organizer, we literally would empty the closet, try everything on, and put it back again. That is not what I advise people to do anymore, and that's not how my system is set up. So I have a 100-day home organization program. It is a paid program, but it only takes 15 to 30 minutes a day to do your daily task. And when you get through all of the days, your house is organized. You're never going to get through 100 days in 100 days. So it's a lifetime program. You could do it as many times as you want. But when we do the closet, we take one whole week to do the closet. And one day we do shirts. And the next day we do shoes. And the next day we do pants. And so the goal is that you take all the pants out and you put them on the bed and you try them on, and then you put the ones that fit back in the closet. Now, usually when you're doing the closet, it takes more like 30 minutes to an hour each day, because even just trying on those pants and then listening to all your negative talks to yourself and then going in the Facebook group to have positive thoughts again and putting them back in the closet takes more time. We take 21 days to go through the kitchen because I break it down into really like silverware drawers a day. Clearing off the counters is a day, because we don't have these long, uninterrupted amounts of time to do organizing. We need little pockets of time, but more importantly, you need to learn how to be organized. Like Cass, you're organized, but not everyone is organized and they may never have learned. So I'm teaching you organization as you go through. And even if you are an organized person, usually it's your living spaces that are organized. Few people have figured out how to organize a storage room or a garage or an attic on their own in a way that is actually maintainable.
I think that is the key, is it maintainable? Because you can make something look clean and pretty. But if it isn't maintainable, then it isn't functionally organized.
Right. And usually clean and pretty isn't maintainable because it's not based on function. It's based on decorating.
Yeah. I have this thing that I say in Subtraction Project is that your pants have one job: cover your butt. If they can't do that job, they're fired. And I think and it's one of those things that people always latch onto in Subtraction Project stuff, is that it's that intention behind an item, behind your things. Like, what is this for? I mean, I know Marie Kondo sparked a whole lot of stuff, right, with joy and everything else. But at the end of the day, you know, not everything can spark joy. Like that's, I just don't think that that's a realistic desire of your things. That's not the intention that I have for so much of my stuff. Right. But if I have an intention, and if the intention is really simple, the pants cover my butt. That's the qualification to be in my closet. You got to do that job. And if one way or the other, they don't work, then it really takes a lot of that negative self-talk out of the equation. It's like, well, it's not my job to fit in the pants. It's the pants' job to fit me. They're doing a shitty job. Like, I think that sometimes that really helps people get to a place of, oh, you know what? That is something that I hadn't really thought of. I actually don't need to take myself down a spiraling, shameful hate journey about my pants.
Yeah. And so much of what we expect our organization to look like or feel like or function like is all in our head. Our
Mm.
spouse and our kids do not have that expectation of us, and nobody else sees inside of our house. So we're playing this game where we're trying to have this organizational show that nobody's watching, but we're still criticizing ourselves over and perfecting constantly when no one else is watching or playing the game with us. Like a lot of it is just mental.
Yes. That is powerful right there. Because like we're not steps away from having somebody come into our house and inspect for organization or beauty.
Right.
I'm curious what you're doing right now for yourself. You mentioned self-care earlier, and I think people have a very narrow view of what self-care looks like or how they define it. And you mentioned lunch in a podcast or lunch and reading a book. I love these tactical examples of how other women are doing this self-care thing because it doesn't look like a full day at the spa 99% of the time.
Right. Not at all. By the time this podcast airs, mine will have already dropped. I've already recorded a podcast for September about my self-care on the Organized 365 podcast. 5 things I do, 3 of which cost no money. I take an Epsom salt bath every single night. I always have, not Epsom salts, but I've always taken a hot bath, even when the kids were little. Like sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. A hot bath has always been something for me. Another one is I have a dog. So like I said, I like to go out at lunch. And I'll sit there only for 15 minutes, turn on a podcast, eat something quick. I did it right before we did this interview with my dog outside. I love to do that. I love to do jigsaw puzzles. I do them at night while we watch TV. I usually have one going. For a long time, I didn't have it up because, I don't know, I didn't want to have a half-done puzzle around. But now I love it because whenever I have some time, I could do that. And then more recently, I've been putting some time and money into my makeup and my clothing. And that's something that I'm doing for me after shopping at a resale store for 12 years because my kids needed new clothes and I didn't. And now I'm like, you know what? There's Plato's Closet. You guys can start getting resale clothes. I'll buy you clothes twice a year. You could buy your own clothes. And it's time for mom to get a new wardrobe. So I've been spending a lot of time on what is my style and trying out different stores and different clothing. And then realizing 6 months later, you know what? I thought that's what I wanted my style to be, but I don't. So I'm kind of narrowing in on, you know, who am I today and how do I want to reflect that in my clothes?
I really like that a lot because I've been thinking a lot about my clothing lately as well, because I've been in this place of, I was pregnant for a very long time. I felt like I was pregnant for like 5 years, which I was pregnant for a lot of 5 years. Leora, our little 14-month-old, she is the last of her name. And so now I'm kind of like, I've been in this place of, oh, okay, am I going to buy myself new clothes? Am I waiting until I, lose the baby weight, which is comical, honestly. And I love the idea of dressing myself as an act of self-care and self-love. That feels really nourishing.
Yeah, because when you get home at the end of a long day, if you have something really expensive on, you're not going to want those little baby messy hands all over you, but you want them to be able to run right to you. So, what does this mom who loves these babies and has waited forever to have these babies wear on Friday, Saturday, Sunday that also looks good for George? And what does this mom who's also an accomplished businesswoman wear when she goes to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? And you own your own, you have your office. So you can change your clothes before you leave the office if you want. Like if you want to wear something really dressy on Thursdays because you do all of your networking that day, then you could stop at the office, change into your mom clothes, and then head on home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just trying on different ideas. I think that's what I'm loving about this conversation with you and all of the conversations, frankly, with the podcast, is that you get to say, oh, okay, this is how this person is suggesting, or this is how this person does it. Could I try that on? How does that feel? And I was listening to a podcast with Amy Porterfield and Marie Forleo the other day.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It was a great one. Great episode. We'll link to it in the show notes. But Marie was talking about, does this feel contracting or expansive? Mm-hmm. And like, if you just check in with yourself, like, do I feel tight and kind of wound about this, or do I feel free and easy? And it's really easy to do that. Very simple exercise. Again, an act of self-care.
Right.
What? Oh, okay. I can try this idea on that Lisa just shared. How does that feel for me? Well, that one feels really great. Okay. Try that one on more.
And I think that we're missing, like, what is our goal? Like, if our goal isn't to have a Pinterest perfect house, which mine no longer is, and it's 100% organized, but I look around and it is not Pinterest perfect around here. I mean, it's nice, but I look around, I think, oh, it's not Pinterest perfect, even though it's organized. And I'm having to learn to change what I view organization as, not what's on TV and in magazines and on Pinterest. This is the most organized house, but my refrigerator doesn't have all glass containers that are labeled with what's in the glass. It has regular grocery store stuff in it. I mean, and that's still organized. Like, it doesn't have to be all repackaged and labeled. And I've been able to give myself grace with that, but this trying to figure out what my style of clothing is has been much harder, because growing up in the 80s, it was corporate woman worked, mom stayed at home. Now, my mom was a working from home mom who wore really, really nice Talbot's cute clothes, but I did not internalize that. I internalized the media message of stay at home in sweats or go to corporate in skirts. And I found that when I decided, okay, I am going to be the CEO of Organized 365, I went out and I bought a bunch of suits that I don't wear, because where am I going to wear them? Where am I going to wear these suits to that I have? I do own my own company and I have all of these employees, but there's nowhere to wear a suit to. So I go back and forth between, like, well, I like jeans, but is that professional enough? But then there are guys that have jeans and t-shirts and own billion-dollar companies, and that's what they wear, but that doesn't make me feel feminine enough. And, I'm trying to wrestle with what clothing reflects where I am in my stage of life, in my stage of parenting, in my business, and what I feel most comfortable in. And I'm getting closer, but I'm still vacillating between what I think I'm supposed to wear, what I like to wear, and, what's in my closet.
Yeah. Have you tried any of the runway, Stitch Fix, all of these different options? I think that that's been a really interesting experience for me, and trying out some of those boxes to say,
oh, you have?
Yeah, I have. Oh. I did Le Tote for a long time, especially when I was pregnant. I thought that
write it down.
Yeah, Le Tote. I'll include a link in the show notes too for everybody listening, but I thought that was great, and that it helped me really try on some different styles. Like, I would always see somebody on Instagram, for example, Sarah Jenks. She's like boho fabulous. Like, she always just looks really flowy and relaxed. And I'm like, oh, I want that. But then I try on a boho shirt and I'm like, what are you doing, girl? Like, put on a black t-shirt. This is not you. Like, yeah, I think it's a great way to try on different looks and styles without investing anything out of the gate. Mm-hmm. I'd try that, but I think it's another thing that's similar to what you were saying at the transition times in your life. It shifts.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we need to dress the part. Mm-hmm. So like when you became the boss, when you decided I'm stepping into this role as owner and boss lady CEO.
Yeah.
I needed a power suit for that job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's just hilarious when your manufacturer's in Texas and you step off the plane and you're in a suit and they're in jeans.
Yes.
They're right. Because that's what they do in Texas. So
yeah.
When I go down there, I still wear like black pants or something like that. But the next time we go down, I'm going to wear really cute, dressy jeans. But that's the kind of CEO I am. I mean, I am helping homeowners and busy women, and I'm working with companies that are in Texas. And so I'm going to go get some cuter jeans.
Yes. I love how you're trying all of this on. And thanks for sharing it with us, because I think, you have a lot of everything figured out clearly in a really thoughtful way. It's great to see where people are at a work in progress stage.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It's good. I think it's especially important for women to see that, because there's a curtain that sometimes gets drawn behind the professionalism that doesn't let us be people.
Yeah. And where are those conversations being had? This podcast is a great example of where you can hear those conversations. These are the ones I'm craving, especially as I grow my company. And you know, I don't have many models of women around me that have grown companies like this as I have. My models are my father and my stepfather both grew small companies. And so they've both passed, but I try to remember what they did for their employees, and a lot of the fun things they did for their employees I have for mine. But it is hard to find those models and those conversations to listen into.
Yeah. I'm glad that this place exists for that, because, whether you are just starting out in a career, or you've retired, or you've sold a business, or you have VC funding on a business, like, we're all in our own place of in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to get a little ping in the, here's where you are.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like. That's important. What are you doing each week that's bringing you some ease? You mentioned the Sunday basket. I wanted to give you a really softball there for that.
Okay, so it is the Sunday basket. So you can go to sundaybasket.com and learn all about it. But the Sunday basket, in essence, is a basket or a box that you put in the kitchen, and it's like your inbox. That's where you put your mail. But more than your mail, it's where you put all your actionable to-dos and the ideas that you have. So what I found in 2011 was my mind was overflowing with things that I needed to do and I needed to remember to do. And so I just started using index cards and writing every single thing down. Buy toilet paper, get a haircut, go to the grocery store, whatever. I would write it all down. And as I looked at that index card and got it out of my head and onto paper, I then would say, can this wait until Sunday? And getting a haircut could wait until Sunday. So I put it in the Sunday basket. And the more things I could get out of my head on paper and defer until Sunday, it freed up time in my everyday. And then on Sunday, I go through all the mail, all the actionable to-dos. I make my errand list for the next week, and I process through all of that paperwork and all of those ideas that I have, most of which end up getting recycled, or they actually got done just along the way.
But holding space for them and getting them out of your head is key.
Physical space. And even like you have little kids. I'm sure they have plenty of toys that have batteries in them. Batteries die constantly. Like, don't you have like a line item budget just for batteries right now?
It feels like it. My husband, I don't know how to change batteries. That's been my thing.
Good job.
There was a time I was watching an Everybody Loves Raymond episode where Deb doesn't know how to do recording. And
yes.
She sticks to this. I don't know how to record things. And I was like, that's brilliant. I also don't know how to do this. I don't know how to change batteries. So my kids always go to George and they have their whole thing that they do. But yeah, it's a lot of batteries.
So if you do change batteries, you just take the toy and put it in the Sunday basket and you do all battery changing on Sunday. I personally don't know how to cut the grass. Just in case you're wondering, okay, I don't know how. I don't know how to cut the grass.
How could you? I mean,
I don't. And then Greg goes for a walk. He's like, every person cutting the grass this week was a woman. I was like, you forgot the glasses you're supposed to wear where all those people become men. I don't know how to cut the grass. And women, I just tell them it's a rule. Women don't cut grass. Don't send me emails. It's just a joke.
It's just a joke, right? Yes. I don't think we're going to get any nasty emails on that one. I don't think so. But I do like the idea of saying, hey, that's not my role. And that's not something I want to spend my time doing. And saying, yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And then George can have a Sunday basket as well. And then he could do all the battery changing on Sunday. And the whole role of the Sunday basket is to stop living in reactive mode and start living proactively. So don't react to the mail the day it comes to you in the mailbox. It's snail mail. It can wait till Sunday. Unless it's a check to cash or a letter from your mom, it can all go in the Sunday basket. Batteries can wait until Sunday, unless it's a 2-year-old and it's going to cause more of a problem. If you don't change it, then change it immediately. But all those requests that come at you, you do them because you're afraid you're going to forget, or you're not going to have time in the future. So you might as well do it now. But then you're robbing your current day and the plans that you had for your day based on these random things that maybe never shouldn't have even been done to begin with.
Yes. Getting them out. I think that's the key. I personally use a bullet journal, and I find that everything just goes in the bullet journal because I'm a lot of different places throughout the course of a week. having it all with me all of the time, that really feels good for me. But it's the same philosophy. I think you could use that philosophy and then apply it. And yeah, there's a lot of physical papers, especially with like school and everything else. Like there's a lot of physical
And
paper.
remember, you're organized, Cass. So a
Yeah.
bullet journal works for you because you're organized. Many people will start a bullet journal or a notebook or 10, and then they can't remember which notebook they wrote that in. And then they don't go back through the notebook. And then they find the notebook 3 months later and they go, oh, shoot, that was really important. And now it's too late. So the reason why the Sunday basket works, I was a preschool teacher and a middle school math teacher. They're the same thing. Why the Sunday basket works is because it's one place that everything goes, and your family can add stuff into that basket as well. And one time on Sunday where you process through everything, which lets you realize you're not going to get it all done. And you purposely every single Sunday have to say, this is not going to get done. I am going to delegate this to someone else. And these are the few things I am going to choose to get done this week. When you start filling a notebook for people who aren't organized, then they start flipping through the notebook and it's just a reminder of all the things they haven't done. And there's no way to prioritize that notebook.
Yes. I mean, I even find that true. So I can definitely see how somebody that doesn't have, 39 years of organizing themselves under their belt, how that would be really overwhelming. Yeah. Having a physical place. Totally. We have covered so much good stuff. Is there anything that I didn't ask you today that I should have?
I love this conversation like this. I love all of the little rabbit trails we went on. I thought it was so good.
I'm glad. I really enjoyed it too. And I feel like I've gotten some really tactical things. I hope our listeners do too, about how they can try some different things on and, some suggestions like, I need to be talking to our babysitter about making the school lunch and doing the kids' laundry and kind of working that into her time. Because, I don't need to be folding every pair of pajamas in order to be a good mom.
Right. Yeah.
That's powerful. All right. I've got a lightning round of questions for you, Lisa.
All right.
What is your go-to jam when you need to up your energy?
Okay. It's Yeah by Usher. And if you've ever seen the movie Hitch, then you've got to pretend to be dancing while you sing the song.
Fantastic. What time do you wake up?
Anytime between 6:30 and 7.
What does breakfast look like?
Okay, same thing every day for 7 years. It is a Zone Perfect protein bar in the chocolate peanut butter flavor with a caramel Keurig coffee with raw sugar and milk.
Nice. What is your favorite ritual?
My Sunday basket.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning person or night owl?
I'm a morning person.
What is a book you've given the most?
The one I'm giving the most right now is called Small Giants by Burlingham. And it's all about building a purposeful company that is not built to scale, but is built to be a small giant. It can become a bigger company, but it's built slowly under different principles than a company that's built to sell.
Awesome. What can someone do to make you feel appreciated?
They could tell me I'm doing a good job.
Lisa, I'm going to tell you right now, you're doing an amazing job.
Oh.
And I'm so grateful that for our Niches event brought us together and that I get to know you and experience how you're impacting women across the globe. Thanks for the work you do.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you as well.